Hello everybody, and welcome to this new stream on a beautiful Wednesday. Even though I have to admit, here in Romania it feels much more like autumn or spring. It's kind of like a little bit hot for this period. We even had some storms today, so yeah, not a typical thing. But we start this stream with a very good news. I don't know if or probably most of you that are already watching, probably you have already noticed, is that we have passed 10,000 subscribers on this channel. Hello Terence, hello Boyan, I'm glad you joined here. So yeah, that's kind of like a very big news. And here, right, we have a new subscriber just right now. Thank you very much, Katalin, for subscribing. Cool. So yeah, that's the good news. So we got over 10k. And Christian, sorry, thank you Christian for subscribing. In 1 minute you will also be able to join the chat here, so yeah, please feel free to do that. Hello Daniel, and good morning for you. For all of you who are probably newer here, Daniel is from Australia. Like it's very early in the morning right now, like 5 o'clock or something like that, if I'm not wrong. Or maybe 6, or I don't know, something like that. So thank you very much for joining. And yeah, cool. So we are building a chess application. Victor Moreno, good afternoon from East US. Hello Victor, thank you very much for joining. On the other hand, there are some less good news in the tech industry right now. Like yeah, 5 a.m. Like the bad news in our industry right now is that Microsoft is laying off around 10,000 people. That's not a good sign. Terence, congrats for 10k. Thank you very much, Terence, and thank you very much, Victor. And thank you very much for being subscribers, first of all, because that's it's well, basically, well, it's thanks to you that we have reached actually that milestone. And by the way, if anyone wants to know why some people have this Code Wrinkles badge next to their name, is because they are Code Wrinkles members, so they have joined the Code Wrinkles memberships. And yeah, we are also hanging out on the Discord server, and we are having a lot of discussions. Like Thursday we have a community hangout, so we get to talk to each other. But the cool thing is that from time to time, basically we have also ad hoc calls or meetings or helping out others, and that's what I really appreciate so much at the community that we are building there on Discord. Cool. So coming back to our chess application, and yeah, by the way, if you have any questions and if you want to talk about anything, as also the title mentioned here, so you can ask me anything, and I'm always open for discussion. That's the primary reason why I prefer to do these live streams. Let me maybe tune down the background music a little bit. So it's one of the reasons why I prefer to do these live streams, because I kind of like get in a closer touch with subscribers and watchers, and that's kind of like a great feeling. Like even now we have viewers from Australia, from East US, from Europe, and it's kind of like the world feels so small, and I feel that I really get to know you. Cool. So what we have achieved, I guess, last time, let me run the application, because to be honest, I didn't even start it since we left off the last time, but I have worked to actually implement some cards in the interface that should basically start a game. We have implemented also the, well, let's call it domain model for the game. So theoretically today we should be starting to, well, implement this idea of creating really a game like with 2 players and similar to that. So yeah, that's right now it's starting for the first time. Takes a little bit longer. Cool. It takes too long actually. So yeah, these are the cards. So the whole idea is that when we click on such a card, we want to actually, basically what the application needs to do is it needs to kind of like find a player for me, so that I have somebody to play with. And then after it finds a player, both of the players, like me and the other one, we should be redirected basically to a game page where we have, well, the chessboard and where we can start moving pieces and things like that. And yeah, that's kind of like what we want to do today. We will start, let's say, step by step. So first of all, I guess the first thing that we need to do is implement the game component, like to have it. I guess we already have something, but we can maybe reuse that. So implementing the game component, and then we'll go like step by step and see, okay, what do we need in this component, and then we'll create all the resources that we need when we need them. Bogdan Alya. Hello, Bogdan. Long time no see. Or at least not here in the stream. Cool. So yeah, that's the whole point. So right now it doesn't really happen anything, but yeah, that's the plan. And the chessboard we already have in a component, but we have removed it from the index page. And through this process, we'll probably go also to work with SignalR at a certain point. But yeah, let me just well, set up a little bit of things here. You can hear me well enough. Is this correct? Cool. So let's look a little bit into the what we have here. So in these pages, we have these common shared pages. Like we have the login. Here we have the index, and here is where we have created the cards. Though I'm not sure if that's the best idea to create them here, but yeah, maybe we'll move them to another folder at a later point. So now what we want to do is kind of like to create a game. The idea of displaying games is basically, well, it should be a feature of the application. So what I would like to do here, of course, we have this data stuff that's still from the I guess we can even remove that. Let's just remove that. It's from the template which we have started. So yeah, let's just delete that because we don't need that stuff there. Okay, data. Let's also delete this directory because we don't need it anymore. Okay, then we have this chessboard component, and it's basically just a chessboard that we have rendered, but it's not really. Probably we'll just use a little bit of what we have here to get started, but we'll create a totally dedicated component for that, I guess. I guess that would be the best way to proceed here. Cool. So in this case, I guess, where do we have errors? Let me... fetch data component. We don't need this anymore. That's also from the template. Let's get rid of that. Also, I know a lot of you already did this, but if you're here, please just say hi and also let me know where you are watching from if you are newer to the stream. Those that are regulars, probably I already know. But if you're newer, please just say hi and yeah, let us know where are you watching from, and hopefully you become part of our community. That's what I hope, at least. Cool. Do we have any other errors? No, we don't have any other errors. What, I guess this counter, that's also something that we don't need. Okay, so my cat is meowing here. Probably you hear that. Ukraine. Thank you very much, Eugene, for tuning in from Ukraine. I know things are tough there. From Morocco. Thank you very much for joining from Morocco. Eugene, from which part of Ukraine are you? We have at our company basically a lot of colleagues from Odessa. We have opened an office in Odessa, well, just 1.5 years ago. So we have a lot of colleagues there, and we are continuously in contact with them. Central, okay. Cool. Okay, so is there anything else that we need to delete? Program.cs, okay. Probably there was the weather forecast service. Okay, we don't have this data here anymore. Yeah, let me close the server. Identity UI, we don't need it anymore. I guess these two maybe we'll just keep a little bit. We'll see. And this weather forecast service, we don't need it. And I guess right now we shouldn't have any errors. No, okay, cool. So let's go on and yeah, let's create a new directory. Let's call it game, because this is the game functionality. So it's a feature. I go with this well, folder per feature approach. Some might even call it vertical slices, although vertical slices might be a little bit more tricky than that. And actually, I'm thinking already of creating a video on vertical slices versus regular clean architecture, because I think a lot of people kind of like misunderstand the idea of vertical slices. Terence Ferguson from USA, thank you very much for tuning in. Okay, so in this game component, then, of course, what we'll have is a game component. And this game component will, let's create a Blazor component. And this component, let's call it chess game to not have any, I don't know, maybe problems with the namings and clashing namespaces. So this will be our chess game component. And what I like to do here is in this component, we'll probably have a lot of code, like the code behind part. So what I would like to do in this case, but I see I did exactly the same thing also for a chessboard, is to actually create a class behind, or a, well, yeah, a code behind file. So I would need to create a new class that should be called chessgame.razor.cs. Theoretically, if I make this partial class chess game, did I name it wrong? Yes, I named it wrong, I guess. This is chessgame.razor, I guess, if I see correctly. And this is chessgame.razor.cs. And yeah, it should be fine. What's the warning here? Is never instantiated. Ah, okay, because here I guess we need to inherit from this component base. So yeah, let's just inherit. Okay, so what's the problem now? No problem. Cool. So I guess we are fine with that in this case. Cool. And in this chess component, we'll also reuse a lot of things that we already basically did in the chess game. But in this case, we don't want to have the title, but we'll reuse some of the mod Blazor stuff that we have already used. So first of all, when working with mod Blazor, I want to create a grid, basically. Everything I put actually in a grid usually. I'm not sure if this is really good or bad, but yeah. Why doesn't it see that? Because it's not mod Blazor, sorry. Oh, okay. Mod grid. I was talking about mod Blazor and then I did write the component wrong, so yeah. Cool. So we have a grid. And it usually grids in all the examples on the documentation from Blazor. They have this MT4 class. I'm really not sure exactly what this is 100% for. But then in the mod grid, usually we have items, and it's very similar to Bootstrap for those of you who might be a little bit newer here. And basically it means that mod items, we can then kind of like, well, have the same concept like in Bootstrap, like with the columns. And we can have, for instance, a property here, because it's a parameter on the mod item in mod Blazor. And we can see here that, for instance, I want, if the display is from medium and higher, I want it to be 6, like half of the display port. And if it is small, basically, then I want it to be 12. Because if small, I want it to be on the entire screen. I mean the chessboard itself. Cool. And then once we have this item, what we can have here is mod. What do we? I guess we need a container, because the container we use on the container, I found out. I'm not sure if really it's okay. Got confused last time with that one. What do you mean, Boyan? With which? We're just starting using Blazor at my company, and they chose Blazor as the front end. It's fast and clean, but I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I'm also not sure. I generally hate front end, so yeah. But the idea is that on the mod container, it's good to kind of like implement some basic flexbox. And here, since this is a chessboard, we want to see things vertically, probably because something might be under it. Bootstrap. Okay. Then you need to get started with Bootstrap and the grid model and how it works, because it's exactly the same also in Blazor. Bootstrap is very, very popular when it comes to front end, and probably that's why also Blazor kind of like went with the same paradigm and approach, because it's, well, something that basically all developers are very familiar with. And then I guess in this mod container, we can then simply put this here, like our chessboard that we have already created. Now for the chessboard, as if some of you might have joined kind of a bit later in the stream, like maybe if you have missed the other 4 parts, the idea is that for the chess itself, we are actually using 2 JavaScript libraries. So one JavaScript library is called chess.js, and that's basically a chess engine. So it verifies if the moves are correct and things like that. And then we have another library which is called chessboard.js that works in conjunction with chess.js, but chessboard.js just renders the board with pieces and animations and things similar to that. So we use those basically in the front end, and that's why here we cannot simply create a mod component for that, because we need to keep here some naming conventions so that chessboard.js and chess.js know exactly where to find a game. Okay, so let me just think about a little bit, because we have class row, and since this is in this one, 12 means actually the same size of this one. That should be okay, I guess. But then for the width, I guess here we can simply maybe I don't want it to be 100% of that specific parent, but maybe I want it to be 80%, something like that, because I want to have some breathing space around it. Theoretically, I would expect that this would now render correctly. Hopefully. Cool. No, where is the semicolon? Here. When I started learning Angular a few days ago. If you work with Angular, you for sure need to also know Bootstrap. Because also different Angular component libraries, they are using Bootstrap, and yeah, virtually Bootstrap is everywhere, or almost everywhere. Although there are also other very popular frameworks right now, like Tailwind, but I am not sure if anybody is more savvy in front-end technologies than me. Is Tailwind also based on Bootstrap when it comes to grids and things like that, or is Tailwind totally different? So who's the front-end guy here? Who's the front-end guy here? Nobody. Nobody is a front-end lover. I know we had another viewer that joined well, from time to time, and he probably would know what to say here, like Vlad. I'm front-end. Okay, so my question was, I I hope I get your name right, Yahya. The question was, is Tailwind also based on Bootstrap, or is Tailwind totally different with a different paradigm when it comes to layouts and doing layouts? Okay, cool. Then you are in the right place if you want to learn backend. Well, at least .NET backend. And by the way, new video is scheduled already for tomorrow. It's already recorded. Everything is done. It will be, I guess, a nice and easy one before we go into persisting things when we work with domain-driven design. That will be a little bit more complicated. Cool. Okay. So now we have this chessboard here. I'm wondering if I need anything else here. I guess right now, probably we should be kind of like good to go. Now, this means that we need to go to the code behind file. And the very first thing that we want to do is kind of like, well, copy this. Don't copy paste. Don't say you have seen this in my stream, please. Okay. So we need the IJS runtime because we need to use the JavaScript interoperability features in Blazor, because we need to communicate from the chess library with our component and from the component with the chess library to kind of like transmit the moves and things like that. So what we do here is we set up the board right now in the original position. So that's a fan string. That's a, well, a chess notation type of thingy. I'll send you I send you a URL if you want to understand better what actually a fan is. Where is it here? Here's a link. So, but this is actually the fencing that represents the starting position. So that's, we are saying basically to chessboard.js that, hey, we want the starting position here. Now the orientation, that's kind of like a nice thing, because it means if I'm white, I want to have the white pieces down, because that's how all chess apps have it. And if I'm black, I want to have the black pieces down. So right now the orientation is white, which means that the board will be by default with the white pieces down. So that's probably something that we'll need to kind of like address at a certain point. And then if IJS runtime is not null, then we invoke this render board method and we provide these parameters. Now this render board method, for those of you who are new to the stream, because we have done this right in the first stream, actually we have this, our JavaScript file, which is Blazor chess. And it's a JavaScript file that we have created where we kind of like want to bind together, well, our Blazor part with the JavaScript part. So what we have here is this method render board. So what we are doing basically in this component here is we are calling like this one here, like when we say invoke async and render board, if you take a look, it actually calls this JavaScript method. So it says, okay, I want to render a board with this position, with this orientation, and well, plain color. Not sure exactly why the player color. Because I guess the player color we need to kind of like find out who's about to move. So basically, that's what we are doing. We are calling this method from our Blazor component. That's how JavaScript interoperability works. And of course, it's also possible to do this the other way around, like to call from JavaScript to call basically a method on our Blazor part. Now the idea is that we will probably also need that, because when a player moves, that move will be handled by chessboard and chess.js. But we need to notify the Blazor component that a move occurred so that it can then probably through SignalR kind of like notify also the opponent that a certain move was made, so that the move is made automatically on the board. Okay, so yeah, Tailwind is the same with more options. So atomic classes, you have more choices. and more custom grid, more than bootstrap, of course. Okay, I understand, but do you still have this concept of the grid and with columns, and by default a viewport has 12 columns, and then basically based on this you can specify, okay, how wide do you want a certain part or a certain component to be? Like if I want to be half the screen, it would be then well, call 6. It's the same grid system. Cool. Okay. So now we have this one, and for now I guess that's okay. We'll probably do a lot of other. Yes, yes, all of them. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we'll probably change this a lot while we kind of like continue to build this this component. Now, this actually, what we'll need here, actually this will be a page. How is it like this? It will be games or game, just game. We'll see a little bit later why, because I think we'll need a signal R hub that will probably call games, where we'll kind of like, it will be the hub for all the games that are happening. Did I do this correctly? I'll check again. On the index. Yep, it should be okay. So I guess what we can do here is we can actually already, I guess we should be already be able to kind of like test if the chessboard is rendered. We should just navigate to game manually. Yeah, so let's just save anything or everything, and let's try that. Probably it will open on the other screen once again, but I'll bring it on this one. Okay, where is it? It still builds. I'm not sure why it's so slow, but yeah. Okay, I understand the build is successful, but yeah, let me bring this here. So I am already authenticated. However, we haven't authorized actually this endpoint yet. And it works. So the chessboard rendering is okay. Of course, the only problem is right now I'm the only one who's playing it. For instance, the problem is I can still move also if I'm not black, so I can just right now play for everybody, which is of course not optimal, but yeah, it's something that 10 points for who knows how this attack is called in chess. Have a good evening, Boyan. Thank you very much for being here. So, do we have any chess players here? Maybe Daniel? However, it's really not that important. Yeah, the idea is that the chessboard is rendered. Let's see. Fried liver, yes, correct. And that's the fried liver attack. Cool. Yeah, let's just close that. So we know for sure that the chessboard right now actually works. Like we have the component. Now what we need to do is actually we just need to, you know what? Let me go to the home page. Not to the home page. So what we can do is right now, as the next step, like in the cards that we have created right now, in the function, the on-click function, we redirect automatically to the games. And yeah, as I said, we will try to do everything step by step. So the next step, I guess it would be that one. Okay, where have we placed that? I guess here somewhere. User info. Where did we play? Create game card. Okay, not sure why I have placed it here. To be honest, I'm not sure why. But the idea is that here in this create game card we have this on click, and here have this card clicked. So what we can do here is navigate, but I guess we don't have the navigation manager. Okay, so we can then just inject that. And let me close the server. I guess let's make it public. Not have any problems here. Public. Navigation manager. Navigation manager. Okay. That's set. Now, what's the problem with you? No problem. Okay, cool. And then what we'll do here is in this on clicked or card clicked, what we'll do here is navigation manager dot okay, but why? Why doesn't it recognize it? Okay, navigate to, and where we want to navigate is game. Go to a certain game. So theoretically right now, what we can do is if we run the application again, if I click on a card, I should automatically be redirected to this games component. He's still waiting for it to run. Okay, it opened on the other screen, so let me bring it here. Right now, if I click on one, yep, I'm redirected to the game. So yeah, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Okay. Now let's think it through. What is actually the next thing that we would need to think about? So first of all, I guess what we'll need to do is, okay, so we are here in the card. Okay, the card doesn't really interest us right now. Let's go back to this chess game. And here in this chess game, I guess we'll need some other things. So, first of all, we'll need to get the authenticated user. Because we'll need, and I guess probably we'll need also to kind of like make a call to the database. Because when we display the user in the front end, we want to display first name and last name, not username. And I guess we don't have access to the full name in the authentication context because it only uses what it finds in the claims principal, and well, there is no first name and last name there. So that's why we'll need to kind of like use this, but we'll do this a little bit differently than we have done it previously. And actually I have created a video on this. It's not the authentication state provider, but what we want is to get injected a task of authentication state. Authentication state. So yeah, that's what we want. What's the problem with you? Okay, something like this. And let's call this out state task. Would be a get set. Now the idea is the problem with the authentication state provider is that it kind of like doesn't really always gets updated when something new happens in the authentication state of the user. And the authentication state task is basically assures us that whenever we want to check the user if it is authenticated or not, it does use, actually, it will use this revalidating identity authentication state provider. And if we'll actually check with ASP.NET Core Identity if the user is actually still signed in. If we don't do this with the task of authentication state provider, it will not always check when the user is signed in. So that's actually the main difference here, and that's why we have injected this task of authentication state. Cool. Now, there are some other things that we will need to provide. Probably when this component is rendered, we'll need to generate somehow a game ID, but I'm not sure exactly how we'll do this. But what we'll need for sure is I want to have properties for the fan and for the orientation. And then just use those properties. So it would be, that can be private string, fan string, or just, let's just call it fan. Get set. Okay, and then private string the idea is that this game component will probably not only use when we create new games, maybe when we also want to watch some existing game at a certain point, and that's why this fan string will not always be the default string, but for starting, kind of like we'll set this value, and in onInitialized async we'll simply just well override it if it's needed at a certain point. And for the orientation, actually, I guess it's the same. We'll set it on as white, something like that, and we'll just override that. So in on after render async right now, we'll just use those properties. So here it would be fan, and then it would be orientation. It will be orientation. Cool. And let me also go into the onInitialized async. It override async task on async, something like that. And in this onInitialized async, what we want to do is, first of all, make sure that we actually use this So what I'll want to do is to kind of like check the user that is currently logged in. And you know what? We'll implement also authorization here. So authorize view, and then authorized, and then not authorized. Okay, like that. So if it's authorized, we just take everything from here and paste it here. Okay. And if it's not authorized, I guess what we need to do is we need kind of like to navigate away. Navigation manager dot no, it's not like that. Not authorized. So in this, actually, if it's not authorized, but actually in the not authorized, well, we'll put just a simple I don't know, mod title. No. Mod timeline, mod tree, mod list title, mod select title. Is there no title? Okay, then let's just use a mod text. Okay, and then here we can set the typography, and here we'll set this to maybe age 4, like it should be a heading. Please log in or sign up. Theoretically, we shouldn't actually even see this, so that's the point. Because what we'll do here is in this one, I have used your service result video with the payload and error message for my application. I have made 3 classes, one without payload, one with single payload, and one with a list of payloads. Okay. Yeah, that's I mean, what I presented in that video, that was actually just a pattern. You can design your payload actually the way that you want. However, what was the reasoning actually of having like a single payload and a list of payloads? Because the payload, it's just a T, like it's generic. That payload can be an array, can be a single object. So I'm not sure exactly about the use case, but yeah, what I presented in the video is just a pattern. If you think that your needs are kind of like different, then yeah, feel free to just create that service result idea the way that it fits your application. So that's kind of like always true in coding. So, and that's, I really encourage everybody who's also watching my video, don't really take everything like 100% that you can take it from the video and kind of like reuse it. No, what I want to do in my videos is just to present you some scenarios and actually to just create that drive for critical thinking in yourself. So you can watch, okay, take a look at the ideas, but then also try to understand if it makes sense to implement them like that in your specific scenario. Because what I present in the videos and what virtually any .NET creator does, it's not really a silver bullet that can be applied 100% in all the applications. So in that one with the service result, it was mostly the idea of, okay, instead of just throwing exceptions, it might be better, even from performance perspective, to not throw exceptions, but to return service results. And the thing that I like about the idea of service result is that you can actually, so if you have an exception, then if you throw it, it goes down or up the entire hierarchy until it kind of like surfaces in the response. But you get only one exception. However, when you execute a certain operation, it might actually be the case that that operation would fail at different stages or at several stages. So the problem is, if you work with just throwing exceptions, is when you throw in, then okay, you try to debug and to understand why that exception was thrown and solve that. But once you solve that exception, then you run it and you get another one. Now with the service result, you can basically aggregate all error conditions that are present in that specific operation. So even for you as a developer, it's actually easier to debug, because when you get that exception, maybe you see it in logs or things like that, you already know that, hey, okay, it's not only one thing that actually went wrong, it's actually several things that went wrong. So you already have a better overview. And then of course it's the performance thing that well, I have created basically a dedicated video on how bad exceptions are from a performance perspective, where I have also run some benchmarks, so you can take a look at that. But yeah, I am a full supporter of that service result pattern. But once again, in each project, in each application, you might need to kind of like adapt it. Like the service result could contain more information, could contain different information. So yeah, it kind of like depends on your use case. Cool. So coming back here, what I wanted to actually do here is I want to get the information about the authenticated user. Probably the username will be of importance, because we'll kind of like need the user to then get it probably somehow from the database. and we'll also probably need it one way or the other to kind of like display the name and to kind of like know if we can route the user somewhere. So the idea is that what we'll do here is then var user, or no, var out. We want to first get the authentication state of the user, and to get the authentication state, we'll call this out state task. And when you call this out state task, then basically this revalidation identity authentication state provider will kick in and will revalidate if that user actually is still logged in, if it has not well logged out maybe in a different session or something like that. So that's why I actually use that task there. And as said, I have a video dedicated to this topic. I guess I published it around 1 year ago or something like that. So this basically, if we hover the mouse here, it gives us the authentication state, but it is an updated authentication state. So we know for sure that now it is an updated version of the authentication state of the user. So it means that what we can do afterwards is var username, I guess, out the user dot identity dot name. Like the identity name should probably be the username, and then we have this username, and when we have this username, well, we'll be able to kind of like reuse it but before we actually get this username, you know what we can do here in the uninitialized? If out system dot user dot is user dot identity dot is authenticated. So if it is not authenticated, if the user is not authenticated, system user identity system. But what's the problem with you? Okay, so it's, if it's not, then we'll use the navigation manager. But I want this navigation manager from here. And we don't have the navigation manager here. Okay. I guess we injected it in the component. Okay. So yeah, let's inject in the card component. Okay, I think I understand. Keep up the good work and videos. Thank you very much. So inject, what we'll want here. You know what? Let's make everything private. Injected things, let's keep them private. Okay, navigation manager. Probably we'll have to import some stuff here. Okay, what's the problem? The problem is I have a typo here. Okay, so like that. So now we have the navigation manager. So so if user is not authenticated, we won't use the navigation manager. But why? Because I also have a typo here. Okay, so navigation manager dot navigate to, and to be honest, I don't recall exactly what is the problem here. Let's convert time system nullable of bool to bool. Okay. I guess they yep, like this here. Then I will get this error that is possible null reference. Check expression for null. If out user identity equals null, and if then I want to navigate. Cool. I get that's a good thing to do. And then I'll just have to find out actually the URL to which we want to navigate. We surely have it somewhere. I guess in the app button. In the app on the Blazor here. Because no, not here. Then we'll probably have it in the some layout. In the layout. And not in the layout itself, but in this user menu, I guess. Because here we are using this. Yes, okay. So navigate, this would be the login. And actually we have to force load because we need to perform a page refresh so that we are redirecting with an updated HTTP context. So if we come back here and we can then say just okay, like that. Cool. So now if the user is not authenticated, then we just redirect user to the login page. And that kind of like is okay. And then if the user is authenticated, of course, then it means that we arrive here at this point and we get the username. Now, now I'm thinking a little bit, because what would be actually the next step to do here? And I think that the next step would be, I mean, we kind of like need a way to know basically, or to create a new game. Like basically last time out, we have created this domain model for the game. Okay, have I placed everything here in one single folder? Oh my god. Oh, why did I do that? Okay, why don't I have... Okay, yeah, okay, we'll probably refactor this at a certain point. Cool, but the idea is that we have this chess game to them. And actually, now I see that we might have actually a clash in the naming. This idea of chess game in the domain with the chess game that we have actually in the component. Yeah, we'll kind of sort it out. So the idea is that what we need to do is somehow create a new game, and for that game we need to actually set the chess players. Okay, so that's why we kind of like need to get the chess player from the database. To black chess player, so it needs a black chess player. Then we don't need to set the result and not the result reason. We can set the time and the time control. That's actually something that we need to set, and that's something that the card actually should pass in somehow, or we need to get this from the card. Now I guess the idea here would be that, for instance, in this card component, where did we have our card component? Login display, main layout, nav menu. Come on, where did we? In pages, okay. So actually the thing is that we kind of like can't simply navigate here to this game. I guess this will need some service in behind that will kind of like create a game and then basically send to the new component. Or I'm just thinking out loud right now. Yeah, so is anybody still watching? So the way that I think this should be somehow, so when somebody clicks on the card, like the card says, okay, I want to play a game that's 5+3. So it also specifies that it specifies the time control. Basically, I guess what we should do in the card is actually, we should kind of like before we navigate, so before we navigate away, we actually need some background service or something like that, that in the background will do the pairing. So we'll find out, okay, do we have two players that are currently not playing and that want to play, and that one should then create basically the game and then return the game somehow to this one or to this component, and then the component will be able to kind of like do the redirect. I guess that's a little bit complicated, and I'm not sure that we can use SignalR right here for the pairing, because I guess SignalR probably will come into place afterwards. Because we can't just use the SignalR hub to kind of like implement, or we can just simply call the SignalR hub from here. So the hub will kind of like go into place when the game basically is already created and the components are already alive, so that we can basically add them to the specific hub. So yeah. That's a complicated thing. Yeah, I guess we'll go this route with some kind of background service that will do this stuff. And we'll see then where exactly we can, or when we can bring SignalR into place. But usually when I have this type of dilemmas, I need to kind of like take a short think through once again to kind of like well, define exactly what I would like to do. So I guess I'll go on a 5 minutes break, and after that 5 minutes break, I will be right back here, and I guess we'll go with the approach for a background service that kind of like will do this pairing, and then once the pairing is done, this card clicked will navigate to this game, but it will navigate by specifying probably somehow a parameter like the game ID or something like that, and then in the components we'll be able to kind of like do exactly, or instantiate basically the component with all the information that's needed for this specific game. So yeah, probably I guess that would be then we'll also have to navigate to the game ID. Yeah, we'll see how we can stitch everything together. But yeah, let's just make a very quick well, 5 to 7 minutes break, and then I will be back, and I mean, probably I'll do how I usually do. I'll go with the first idea that seems to be right now a good fit, but probably while we work on this, probably we'll come to other ideas and then we will improve on that. But yeah, I'll be back in 5 to 6 minutes, so Please hang on, maybe grab something to drink, and let's continue in 5 minutes. Cool. So I'm back. I hope you're still there. And as I said, this type of breaks, basically what I do during the breaks usually is something that it's not healthy. I usually smoke a cigarette. And during smoking, a lot of good ideas come. And right now, I guess I have the entire architecture in my mind. And let's thinking about. I want to discuss with you first the architecture. So I'll bring a whiteboard or kind of like a blackboard up. Hopefully, it will be black. Or maybe not. We'll see. Okay. I see a lot of people have actually moved away. I'm sorry. But that break was... We have trouble connecting. Okay. Yeah, let's use a new whiteboard. And now... I hate that. Let me see if I can remember where is the dark mode. Aha. Okay, cool. Now we are better. So, if you're interested about the architecture, and I want to discuss it with you, and just maybe you share me your ideas. So I just want to present what actually I have in my mind right now. Let me expand this, but it goes everything so slow. I think I know. I guess I have to do some investments, some big investments for the YouTube channel. And the first investment would be probably, well, a real computer, because I'm using a laptop. It's a pretty high spec laptop, it's true, but sometimes it's probably not exactly what I need. And also a camera. I have also ordered, by the way, some professional lights or lighting. So when they arrive, probably you'll see some improvements in that. Cool. So let me see. I want to draw a shape first. So we have this is the game card. So that's basically the component on which we click and say that, hey, we want to be paired and we want to play a game. Okay, and then we have here the that would be the component, the chess game component. Now, the idea is that when we create this chess game component, there are a lot of information, or there is a lot of information that we need to know. Like, this means that we kind of like need to know already what type of game it is. So what we can do here is instead, I guess I'll use still this type of shapes, and here I'll have let's call it a lobby service. Now the concept of the idea of lobby is basically where players are placed when they click on the card and say, hey, I want to play. Then they are placed in the lobby and they are waiting to be paired. So there needs to be at least 2 available players in the lobby so that we can pair them. Okay, so then actually what would happen is that, I guess I need an arrow. So when the user clicks on a certain card, now the card already has the information, like the time control, and basically that's the information that we need for that. Basically, it will call this service. Let's make it green. It will call this service, and this service actually what will do is it will kind of like look in the lobby and try to pair 2 players together. It will create a game. And then somehow, probably this will be based on events or something like that, it will actually return here a response with the created game. So let's make this blue. So it will return here the response with the created game. So this means that here we already have all the information that we need, like the game ID. That's probably the most important one. And then basically what can happen, or what we can do, is from this game card we can call this navigate to, And in this navigate to, I guess, if I recall correctly, actually no, we'll have a URL basically that contains the game ID. And what it will happen is that this game card, in that case, will basically redirect to this chess game component. And this chess game component will actually be the term shapes. I want to have text. Where can I have text? Here, text. So this will be something like this. And the text, of course, should be white in this case. Why is it not? Even now? No, here now we draw. That's not what we want to do. Now we don't have the text anymore. Flash UID. Okay, but I want here, this one. To tomb color. Should not be black, it should be white. So it will redirect with the GUID. Cool. Now this chess game, of course, the game that was created by the lobby service will be preserved in some kind of, probably in memory, because we need fast access to it, like a dictionary or something like that. So what happens is that it redirects here, and then it means that this chess game component, this is cool. Good to hear your thoughts as you code. Yeah, that's why I'm actually doing these streams. But if you have better ideas, then also just let me know. So when this chess game components gets instantiated, it already knows basically the GUID of the game. And then this could actually, let's maybe, this is the lobby service. Let's maybe go to this one, and yeah, let's just move it a little bit like this. And also let's move this here. So the next thing that we will want to do is to the term shapes. Let's go back to the shapes. Yeah, let's create it. I don't know. Let's switch the shapes a little bit. Something like that. So that would be the ongoing games. So that's basically a collection, a dictionary, or something like this. Now the idea is that we can even, or how, something like that. So it would be this ongoing game. Now this service will basically create a game, and it will put it here like that. So it means that when these components gets instantiated, what it can do, it kind of like, it will retrieve the game from here. And what it will also do, when it retrieves the game from here, it will have access to all the information that it needs for the initial position, for who is white, who is black, and so on and so forth. So this information will be needed to kind of like render the board with the white pieces down or with the black pieces down and things similar to that. So it will be able to kind of like get the game from there. And as the game is ongoing, each move basically will be maybe also performed on this game, though we just need to set the result for the game. So user creates a game added to the lobby with created waiting for someone to join the game. So people check games in the lobby and join the game they like. Yeah, but basically all the chess applications, they kind of like don't do it like that. They kind of like just pair. We will have basically a pairing strategy, that's for sure. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to pair people that are with similar ELO rating, that's for sure. So that's something that we'll do. But if we create the game already, I guess it will be actually a little bit more complicated to kind of like get everything. We'll see, but definitely that's also an idea that should be taken into consideration. And certainly when we do the pairing, the first option will be to look at similar elo rating. Probably we'll need something like a game pairing options or something like that. But yeah, we'll certainly do that. Now, coming back to this whole architecture thing, so the chess game will have access to the ongoing games. And once the chess game component basically is instantiated and the chessboard is rendered, what this component will also do actually, and that's a very important part, and also with the game ID, okay, Signalar Hub. So what it will do, like for Blazor Server, there is a Signalar client. Like there is a Blazor Signalar client. So we'll not use the JavaScript Signalar client, we'll use the .NET Signalar client. Now, what this will do, what each component will actually do is, it will talk to the Signalar Hub. And depending on which component is actually rendered the first one, the Signalar Hub, I'm not sure if you're aware, but kind of like there is this concept of groups, because we don't want all players to be in the same game. We want 2 players to be in one game and that's it. So we'll create a Signalar group for each game. Now, when the first chess game component gets instantiated, it will kind of like send that information to the Signalar Hub and will kind of like try to connect to the Signalar Hub, and it will provide the game ID. And based on the game ID, the Signalar Hub will create a group, and it will place this one. Then when the second chess game component for that game will be instantiated for the second player, it will also call the Signalar Hub. The Signalar Hub checks that the group is already there, so it will simply add the new connection to the already existing group. And this is how I think we can wire everything up together. And then every time a move happens, basically, from the chess component, that we have the JavaScript that will call a method on the component that, hey, a move occurred. And then the chess component, the only thing that it will do, it will send that information to the Signalar Hub. And the Signalar Hub will notify also the other component that, hey, a move occurred. And that's kind of like how it should work. And once the game ends, what it will happen is that I don't remember, we'll have to send an information somehow to the Signalar that we disconnect from the hub because we don't need it anymore. And what we'll do here is probably we'll have a dedicated service that will kind of like process the game. It will take it out from the ongoing games. It will set the result, and that's basically it. So that's how I see the overall architecture. So the game card will talk to a lobby service. The lobby service will return a GUID. The game card will redirect based on the GUID to the chess game component. The chess game component will check the existing game because the lobby service has already created that. And with that information from the game, it will kind of like know how to render the board. And it will also connect to the Signalar Hub, where we will create a group based on the specific ID of the game. And this means that in that group, there will only be 2 players. So even though theoretically you can add more players, because maybe at a certain point we want to have a feature that players can watch another game. But that would be easy to implement because you just connect to an already existing group. And that's it. The only thing is that in that case, in the chess game component, the viewer, the watcher, will not be able to perform any move. But I guess we'll be able to restrict this fairly easily. And yes, in the lobby service, we'll definitely take into consideration the elo calculator. Cool, so that's basically the plan. So that's the high-level architecture for how this should work. So we can start create the building blocks, and the first building block that we need to create is the lobby service. Okay, so let's go back here. And the only thing that we need to take into consideration, or we need to think about, is where do we actually want to create the lobby service? Like in the Blazor application or in the application layer? That's the next good question. Because that's not really just a service that that's responsible. It's application level logic. It's not rendering logic or logic that's needed for the rendering, or it's not functionality that's kind of like Blazor functionality or ASP.NET Core. It's basically a totally different thing. So I guess I'll create a service in the application layer. But once again, that's purely an application level service, so it will not basically interact with the database and things like that. So we'll simply not do that. Okay. Cool. And in order for the lobby service to create a service, it kind of like it would need to know some information about how it should do the pairing, probably. Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, let's try to do that. So we'll move over to the application layer, which is kind of like empty for now. We'll probably add also handlers at a certain point and commands and queries. However, now we need a folder that's called services. And in this folder, we'll create new class. We don't need an interface for that, because everything will be in memory. It's easy to test, so it's kind of like an interface would just add a needless indirection. So let's call it lobby service. Not very straightforward, but hey, that's it. Well, now the only thing is, or question is, what do we actually need in this lobby service? I guess that the idea of the lobby service, of course, it should be a singleton. It's just to hold the reference, basically. Okay, who's in the lobby? What are the ongoing games? So that's the primary reason, or that's the primary responsibility of this lobby service. Because I think that the matching should be done by probably a different service, or maybe anyone. Yeah, we'll see. So what we'll have in this lobby service? Let's take it step by step. So first of all, what we'll need is, and this will be public, list of, but not list. Let's make it a dictionary. Is this going to be monolithic app? Yes, definitely. Kind of like here we are just concentrating on the idea. Hey, can we build a chess application with Blazor? So we really haven't thought a lot about the overall architecture of the application. In this case, we just wanted to kind of like start from the functionality first. We had another project on which we did some live streams, the CWK Social, and in that one we had the exact opposite approach. So we did really think about in depth about the architecture, and we have set it up. But here we started with the functionality. Not something that I usually maybe would recommend for real, well, when you're developing real applications. But yeah, there were different reasons why I wanted to do like that. Also because it might be a little bit more interesting for the viewers to also see some functionality, something happening in the UI, because only just coding backend or a lot of backend would kind of like be boring. But yeah, so I guess what we want to hold, because we want to have an in-memory collection basically of the games that are ongoing. We need it to be really fast, I guess, or as fast as possible, or as fast as possible. So we'll start with a dictionary, and we'll use the GUID of the game as the key, and we'll use the chess game from the domain, basically. To turn chess sprinkle app. No, not this one. This one. We want this one here in this application layer, because the other one is the component. So we are. A while back, I tried to conceptualize building blackjack, the card game. Okay, console application, and I got about 8% in, and my head started to explode thinking about the requirements scope. Yeah, but believe me, this happened to me a lot of times. But the key point here is to kind of like not give up, to just continue. So that's my advice. So you should definitely go back to that. And yeah, let's make it ongoing games. Okay. So, but I think this might even be. We'll see a little bit later. Okay, so we have this ongoing game. The other thing that we want to keep in mind is, like, we need this concept of, I don't know, having some preferences. Like when I click that I want to play a 5+3 game, I mean, the service that will create the game and the pairing should kind of like be aware of that. So we need to transmit this in a certain way. So what we'll do here is okay, how should we structure this? Because I want this to be feature based. So let's actually, what we'll do, because I want it to be feature based also in the application layer, that's actually a functionality, and that's the lobby functionality. And that in turn means that we'll just move this lobby service in the lobby functionality, because that's where we will probably need that. And as this lobby service might get a little bit crowded, probably with different type of things that we might need to place here, probably another good way, but I guess we'll handle that when we arrive at that point. But what I want to do here, application, is not services, but it's lobby. Let's also change the namespace. Now it should reflect this. And yeah, let's here, for instance, have a new class also in this lobby. Player pairing preference. So this kind of like is the preference of the player, what time control it wants to have, and things like that. But I guess we could also add, maybe right now we don't have this in the card, but probably it's fairly easy to add at a certain point. But for instance, I can also say that I want to play white, so I would prefer to play white or black or things like that. Thank you very much for subscribing, by the way. So I also have an enum here. The term enum side preference, and that would be black and white. Okay, so the pairing preference would be, first of all, side preference, side preference. Okay. Okay, that should be probably public or internal. Let's maybe make it public for now. No, it should be public because we need to use this in the card. So public side preference, side preference gets set. Then the only two other options that we'll need here is public and then time control. But yeah, let's get int, two ints. Int, the first one would be the time control. The second one would be the increment. Int, the term is. Okay, so once we have this, basically in the pairing, where is the term? Okay, that's the pairing preference, of course. And then there is another thing that we need on the lobby. Also, we'll have this as a dictionary. And this would be a dictionary of player, which is the chess player from the domain. Or no, the key, let's make the pairing preference. The key and the chess player would be then the object. Okay, And maybe for the pairing preference, yeah, you see here, that would make sense probably to create this as a struct actually, if I think about this. Because if this is the key, and I would like it to be kind of like, but where do we have an error? Here. If this is the key, I want it to be a value type, not a reference type. Okay, cool. So the term dictionary, that would be basically players waiting. Basically, when the create card component will call this service the one way or the other, the service will kind of like create or will add that specific player. So we'll need to also to get the information about the player in the card probably. So it will kind of like add the players waiting. It will add each player to this players waiting, and then a pairing service probably, because I still see it basically as a different service. So that will look here into this players waiting, and we'll kind of like, well, simply try to kind of like pair something. And basically the lobby service, that should be a singleton, and that's actually why I want to make this distinction. This service will just hold state, and the pairing service will actually be a background service, like a hosted service. So we'll add that as a hosted service. So it needs to be able to access information from this one, but perform the logic. So this service would kind of like be just a state container of the ongoing games and the players that are kind of like waiting. Now, the only thing that we need is, because this service, it cannot simply call back the component like the card component. So it means that once the card component kind of like makes a call to this service, to the lobby service, it needs to be notified whenever for that specific player kind of like there was a game created. And I guess we'll do this based on an event. Public event. The event will actually be of type action of this game. Yeah, that probably might be nullable. Game created, or on game created if an event. On game created. Cool. So this means that in the card component, we'll be able to just subscribe to this event of the lobby service, and whenever kind of like this event is triggered, the card component will be able to do the stuff that we said. So basically, the lobby service cannot call directly the component in any way, but it simply can raise an event, and then the component will subscribe to that event. And when the event is raised, then basically the game card can do this redirect here. So that's how it's supposed to work, I guess. Okay, so we have this players waiting, and then now the idea is, you see that while we work, actually we face some different scenarios. Now the idea is that the game component will need, or the card component basically will need an event to subscribe to once a game is created, but actually this service should also expose a method that the pairing service will call when the game is ready, and then it just simply can raise this event. So this will be then public, or probably we could even make this one, I think we can make internal actually, because the pairing service will be still here. So it will be void, and how should we call this? Choose game created. Then that will also get in the test game. Cool. So in this method, so basically, I don't know if I hope you understand my concept. So there will be a pairing service, and when that pairing service creates a game, it will just call this method on this service. And when it calls this method, we want to actually do two things. The first one, we want to add the game to the dictionary of ongoing games. So what we'll do here is ongoing games dot add, and we'll be able to add this new game dot game ID, which is GUID. Thanks God that we did it correctly, and then the new game. So it's basically what we need to add to the dictionary. And then the other thing that we want to do is we want to erase this event. And what to do this, we can actually just invoke this action. That's why I have chosen here this action. So it would be the term on game created dot invoke game. The term, yeah, new game. Cool. Okay, so what do we have here? Okay, it says it's probably nullable. Okay, so yeah, let's make this null check here, and we should be okay. What's the problem with this one? The term. Okay. But that's actually equal to new. So that will never be nullable, null, and this is also equal to new, so it will also not be null. Okay, what's the problem still? Content of collection ongoing game is only updated but never used. Okay, yeah. Actually, that's a fair point. We just don't need a setter here. By the way, all this entire setup, don't I don't know, take it and go and tomorrow in your, I don't know, at work and say, hey, we do it like this. I'm not really sure if that's the best way to go. Usually when I write code, it's this process. I kind of okay, I have an idea. I kind of try to understand and to draw basically a diagram of the functionality and what I want to implement. Then I just implement it with the very first ideas that come in mind. I'm sure that I make sure that it works. And when it works, basically then comes the second part, when I say, okay, how can I refactor this to be, well, a clean code? How can I make sure that, well, I don't do things that kind of cut a lot of performance, but usually that happens after I have a working proof of concept, let's say, of a certain functionality. So don't take everything and say, okay, we should do it like this. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow I come up with an idea and I don't know, I find out that maybe something is not okay in the setup that I have created. Okay, so let's see here. We have a comment: auto pairing, data game and raise an event. Game card will consume this event. Yes, that's exactly what we want to do here. That's why we have this event, and in the game card will subscribe to this event. And actually, when the game card is disposed, we will unsubscribe to this event. We probably need to also implement a disposable there. So yeah, that's kind of like the whole thing about that. So that's the plan. Cool. Now, maybe to make this a little bit more understandable, I just need to have a little bit more drinks. So who's here? Who's still here? Just wave. Send a sticker, send an emoji, whatever. I'm curious who's still watching. Okay, so I guess maybe for everything to make sense, I guess we should try to wire things up together right now. So that would look something like that. So first of all, we need to go here to where is our app in program.cs. And also another thing here, everything is right now messy. you will see if you go to the other application where we have also a public repository to CWK Social, you'll see that there we have implemented a mechanism in which we automatically register services. So this program.cs file is very, very clean. Here in our case, it's not clean, and really I will not spend right now time to clean it up. But services and singleton. So here we'll add the singleton service, and that would be the lobby service. Okay, probably I don't have a reference to the application project. So, yep, right now I have it. Should be okay with that. Bogdan, you're still here. Thank you very much. And Saurav, also thank you very much for still being here. And Lahib, also thank you very much. And Eric, King. And Daniel. Oh my god, a lot of people. Cool. And Daniel, you are still coding along? If you remain behind, maybe we'll catch up on Discord after the stream, and I'll send you the updated code. If you need it. Cool. Okay, so we have this, we have added this as a singleton. So this means that right now we can come back to the create game card component, and we can inject the lobby service. So inject. Yeah, also let's be consistent, and all injected things, let's make them private because they will not be used outside. Private lobby service. Let's just call it lobby. Saurav, I need from the start. Okay. Now, the thing is that source code and video on demand, like after the live streams, are only kind of like a perk of the memberships. So those who are members and get to the Discord server, they get access also to the source code of all the videos and the live streams that I do. So yeah, that's not something that I post publicly. The other repository, CWK Social, that's a different story. I have started it around 1 year ago, before I have implemented these memberships. Okay, so now we have injected here this lobby service, and I think what I want to also do here in this component, I want to say that, because we'll need to do this, implements disposable. Okay, and this will make us generate dispose pattern. Okay. Okay, we'll do this manually. It would be public void. We'll keep it simple. We will not use async disposable or stuff like that right now. I said we'll just keep it simple. Cool. So, and we'll come back later to actually implement the dispose logic. But the idea is that what we can do here is in the card clicked event, basically we have to refactor this a little bit. So in this card clicked event, what card clicked method on the create game card. So we'll need to create a pairing preference. For preference equals new pairing preference, and yeah, let's use an object initializer here. So yeah, you know what, in the side preference, but we'll look into that. So time control. Now the information about the time control we have in the create card component, because we have this property time control, so we know that. We can just set that. The same thing goes for the increment. Okay, like that. And then side preference equals side preference. Okay, but let's just keep it random. Actually, let's start with random. Random should be the default when we don't really specify anything. So that should be the default value. Cool. So yeah, we have changed this side preference. Create game card. Okay, so now we have this. And then what we'll do here is we'll create also a private method. And this private method would be redirect to game. Okay, and we'll see just in a second why I think that we should create this private method. Now, the idea is that what we'll do here is, and that's actually the part where we wire everything up together. So we can say now lobby dot game created, and what we want is we want actually to hook this redirect to game. Okay, what's the problem with this one? Expected a method with void That's strange. Of method game created. No, I don't want to. So this is actually, let's see. So the game created is an action of chess game. It's on game created. I guess I had it wrong. So let's go back to the chess card. On game created. Yeah, that's actually what we want to subscribe to. Here, I guess, expected a method with void. What's the problem here? Tomb. Yeah, let's create. I guess actually what happens here is that we need a chess game. Because it's an action of a chess game. So, new game. And I think, yes, now it works. I just get here the information that delegate allocation from method group. This means that probably it kind of like informs me that probably it will happen, that a heap allocation will happen. But that's kind of like normal in this type of scenario when you work with events. So the idea is that right now, when the pairing, the flow is like this. The pairing service will call this method game created. So here in the lobby service, we'll add the game to the ongoing games, and then we invoke this on game created. The moment we invoke this game created, since we have subscribed to it right now, so when this is invoked and we are subscribed to it, it will automatically execute this redirect to game. And here in this redirect to game actually is some things that we can actually do. So first of all, so I guess what we can do here is, first of all, we want to unsubscribe from this method or from this event. So lobby.on game created minus equals to redirect game. So we unsubscribe first of all, and then we can simply use the navigation manager, navigate to, and actually where we'll navigate, I guess it doesn't really need to have like game/game ID. That would be too awkward. And I guess also in lichess you are redirected directly to to the game identifier. So yeah, let's use some string interpolation here, and in this string interpolation, we'll just redirect actually to the game ID. Cool. So, did you understand the flow of the application, or how things should flow actually? Because right now these two are wired up together, and the only thing that we need to kind of like perform here is like if something happens, for instance, in on game created, like here when a user clicks, basically what it will happen is that we'll wait until a pairing is done. That could take a while. In the meantime, the user might navigate away. And then the thing is that what we need to do in the iDisposable, like if something, or if we need to dispose something, actually what we need to do is unsubscribe from this event, because we might have subscribed, and if we are subscribed, we want to make sure that we are not subscribed anymore. So in the iDisposable, we'll just use the lobby.onGameCreated minus equals redirect to game. So if the component gets disposed in the meantime, we just want to kind of like unsubscribe from this event. That's why we have also implemented iDisposable. So yeah, I guess right now, basically everything is wired up between this lobby service and the game card. Are there any questions or, I don't know, concerns? Did you understand the flow of the entire thing here? Let me check. Is anybody still watching? Ah, yes, seems that there are some people still watching. Thank you very much for standing by. Cool. What else? Let me check. And the stream quality seems to be okay. Cool. Okay then, let's go one step further. I guess I see there are no questions here. So yeah, let's go back to our stuff. Now, let's go back to the application. So we have this lobby, and we have this lobby service. And I said I want kind of like this lobby service to just be a state container that holds a list of the ongoing games. And maybe here we have a typo. Waiting, yeah, something like that. So it should be fine. So I still think that the pairing itself should not be done in the lobby service. So I think we should just keep these two different concerns in two different classes. So the responsibility of the lobby service would be to just hold some state, and the algorithm for calculating the pairing and creating a new game, I still think that it should be in a different service. But still, it's a functionality of the lobby in some way, so I'll add it to the same folder. To the term, let's call this game pairing service. Something like that. Okay, so let's think a little bit. What would we need in this game pairing service? So first of all, this will be a hosted service. So it means that it will be a singleton. However, in this service, that's actually nice. And I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, well, problem or challenge or caveat, because this would be a background service for sure. But in this background service, we'll kind of like need to also access the database, which will be probably a scoped service. Or here, probably we'll even use IDB Context Factory because it's Blazor. So in this case, it means that when we do something, like when we want to do something with a scope service, we have to manually create a scope for that. So private read-only iService provider. So we'll need to get an iService provider injected because that will help us actually to get a service provider, and with the service provider we can manually create a scope in which we can then run the scope services, and then we can then dispose the scope each time or every time that we finished with some processing where we needed that service. We'll get to this in a minute. So private read only, we'll need the lobby service here because we are relying on information from the lobby service. What else do we need? Actually, I'm thinking here. I have it twice. Why did I write it twice? Strange. So the idea is that how do we actually do this pairing? So this pairing I'm just thinking, because the options for the game pairing kind of like might change at runtime in different scenarios of the application. Maybe I want to pair with similar elo rating, but if I don't have players that are, let's say, within 50 points of elo rating, then maybe I want to check 100 points of elo rating. Maybe I want to have kind of like different ways to perform that. So basically, can't game pairing be a function inside the lobby service? Theoretically, it could be, but I still think that those should be two different concerns. So I'm leveraging the single responsibility principle here. If we would add that to the lobby service, I still think that it will kind of like ask too much from that class. To also hold the state of the ongoing games and the players waiting in the lobbies, and probably while the application evolves, probably there will be a lot of other functionality added to the service that supports this kind of like state container. And the pairing, as I just briefly mentioned a few seconds ago, I think this will be something very complex in the end, because that's a scenario where we might want to, well, to have different strategies actually through which we can do the pairing, depending on different things, like how many players are in the lobby, what elo rating they have, if they have a preference for white or black, or I don't know. There might be a lot of variables that we might want to take into consideration when we kind of like create this pairing. So I even used the word strategies a few seconds ago. So that seems to me like a strategy pattern here. If we need to implement the entire strategy pattern, then yeah, that's some work to do, but I guess that needs to be done. And by the way, Lucky, now if I think better, actually, the lobby service, I don't want to make it as a background service because it needs to hold a state of the application in that point. I don't really need it to run it in the background, because if it runs in the background, I cannot access it from components. So the lobby service is something that kind of like needs to be accessed by the component, but the game pairing should kind of like happen in background, because it's an operation that needs to happen ongoing. Like we try to do some pairing, then if we finish, we try again, because the lobby might constantly change. So we might always have new players there, or maybe some players left the lobby, or things similar to that. So yeah, that's. And now that you said it, it gets complex, but I guess we'll take it step by step, because we haven't right now implemented a scenario where I want to play something. Like in the lobby service, I also need to expose a method that kind of like will remove like if I quit, let's say I don't want to play anymore. I waited 5 seconds and I don't want to wait anymore, and then I simply go away. So the player and the pairing preference will still be there. So but that's actually, I guess, very simply to implement. Because the idea is that if a player kind of like goes away, we need to notify the lobby service that, hey, remove that player from the players waiting, because that player has gone away. So we don't want to pair that player anymore. That we can actually have it in. So here what we need is a public void remove player from lobby. And see here, that's why I say that kind of like when you work and you implement things, kind of like we'll see if what you did think it was good or not. Now the thing is, when I want to remove a player from this dictionary, the problem is that there might be 10 players that have the exact same pairing preference. So it means that kind of like even if chess player is kind of like a class or reference type, we still need it we still need it here. I'm not sure even if we have a chess player actually in the game card, but I guess that's something that we can create, so that shouldn't be a problem. So player, and what I want to do is to see var exists. Actually, players waiting dot remove. I guess this remove works by key. Let me check. Why doesn't it show it? Okay, let's have here player. Yeah, so that should remove the player value with the specified key from the. Okay, cool. Okay, so we remove this player from here. And then in the create card component, basically also in the dispose. So first of all, we just want to unsubscribe, and then we also want to the term lobby.remove. Okay, so the big question, do we have a chess player or don't we have a chess player here? I guess we don't. So can you make other video publicly available as well? I have been following you since the beginning, but I wasn't publicly available. Now, the only videos that are not publicly available are the recordings of the live streams, which are available only for members. Other than the recordings of the live streams, everything is public, so I don't publish videos only for members. This is the only exception. The live stream recordings, those are members only. Like at any membership level, you will have access to the past live streams, basically. Cool. So let's go back. So to the term. So yeah, the problem is that we don't have a chess player here. And actually, we need a chess player. actually also need a method on the lobby service to kind of like add the player to the lobby. Because what we did here, kind of like that just subscribed us to the event, but the player is not added to the lobby. Okay, let's go back to the lobby service. Okay. Public void add player to lobby. So yeah, I think that's kind of like, you'll see that that's kind of like a bigger functionality here. Probably will so add player to lobby. So in that case, what we'll do is players waiting equals or add. Here we'll also need the pairing preference. So yeah, we'll chess player and pairing preference. Okay, so here then we add chess player or player and preference. Probably this can be refactored at a certain point, because I don't like the idea that we have the key here as the chess player, and that's kind of like a reference type. But one way to optimize this is to kind of like provide a custom implementation of the get hashcode method. And since dictionary should kind of like be based on the hash set, on well, the type of hash set, basically I guess if we override the get hash code so that we make sure that we generate a custom hash code, then in that case I guess that could be optimized. I think I'm not sure, but at the first sight that might be something. So here we add the player to the lobby, and here then we remove the player to the lobby. So this means that here in this game card, because we use this preference, but we never, we need to call that method on the lobby. But in order to call that method on the lobby, we need to get the player from the database. And in order to get a player from the database, what do we need? Well, we need probably a query and a query handler, and a database connection, and so on and so forth. So seeing that it's already fairly late here in Romania, I guess that's where we'll stop to do. So that I know exactly where to start off next week. So here would be get player from the database. Okay, add player to lobby. That's what we want to do. For this, we need query plus handler. That would be in the application layer, and implementation for them. Okay, that's what we'll then continue next time out. You see that things that even if they seem simple at the beginning, kind of like while you go and develop a certain functionality, you kind of like face different things or aspects that you didn't really maybe think about them before. And I don't know about you, but to me, this happens all the time. That's the way I work. Not sure if that's good or bad, but yeah, that's kind of it. That's how I work. Cool. So that's then for the next time. Before we wrap this up, does anybody have any question? And before you ask your questions and before you all go away, I just wanted to point out that, well, if anybody of you wants to support this stream, you can do this, of course, by subscribing to this channel. That would be the first and most important way through which you can support this stream and the channel. But then if you want to go an extra mile, you can use here below the comments that super thanks or super stickers to make a donation. That would be highly appreciated. This would be a one-time thing. And if you really want to get more from the CodeWrinkles community and join our Discord server and get access to source code and even get to work on internal projects in our Code Wrinkles community, because we just set up an internal project, kind of like a nice one, but I won't disclose what it is. Then you might consider joining also the membership, like joining the channel as a member. And then you'll get access to all these type of perks, including also access to the recordings of these live streams. So that's one of them. Cool. So any other question? I don't see any questions so far. Are you still there? Hopefully. Yeah, I guess the stream is still working, so yeah, you're all quiet. Okay. I assume for most of you it's very late. For some of you it's very early. Like I know there's at least one watching from Australia. So yeah, cool. Then in that case, I really want to thank you very much for joining. And yeah, please join me next Wednesday at the same time, and let's continue to work and implement this matching service and what we need from the database. And yeah, let's wire the things together slowly, step by step, but it already starts to shape up. So yeah, thank you very much. Have a good night or a good day, depending where you are. And yeah, let's keep in touch on this channel. So bye.